is called, there is a type of vacuum that is difficult to understand. Outer space has not yet definite altitude from the surface of the Earth. According to the space treatise, quote, outer space begins at the altitude of 100 kilometers above the sea level. As per the space law, quote, outer space treaty came. This treaty prohibits the claims of nations and persons in space. UN resolution states, quote, outer space is just for peaceful uses, yet nations keep on testing anti-satellites, weak one in space orbits. Yuri Gagarin, a scientist of former Soviet Union, first found Earth orbit in 1961. Since then, unmanned space flight crafts have reached all planets in solar systems. Manned spacecrafts are highly expensive and it has reduced the Earth orbit and the Moon. Outer space exploration is a highly challenging and dangerous task due to the hazards of radiation and vacuum. They are surrounded by microgravities that weakens the human beings physically in muscles and bones. Human persons physically begins to explore into outer space, followed by manned rockets launched during the 20th century. Because of these environmental and health problems, the space exploration work is economically very expensive to place something or somebody in the space. According to the theory and suggestions, note, quote, nature teaches his principles that is known as the horror vacuum. In the same vein, this concept of Aristotle was later propounded by as an astrologer's argument by another Greek philosopher, Parmenides. He argues with the statement that, quote, existence in vacant space is not possible. The Chinese astronomer Zhang Heng of the 2nd century must be infinite, which supports the Earth, the Moon, the stars, and the Sun. They float, quote, they float, moving or standing still there in the empty space. People today in the world and their scientific mechanisms invented by them are fraught with the threats and dangers arising from them. Chomsky, an American linguist, social critics, historians. However, we have got here the historian Peters from America, Noam Chomsky from America. He quotes the goal as the US Space Command documents explains is to obtain global dominance, hegemony as they call it, and the purpose is to protect US interest and investment. They also give a history. They say that in the past, countries constructed armies and navies to protect and enhance commercial interest. But now, there is a new frontier we can cross. We can take the next step in the protecting and enhancing commercial interest and investment, namely the militarization of space. behavior of human beings. The relationship between ecology and humanity is getting blurred and eroded, and concerns have been raised all over the world. Climate change has brought unprecedented crisis, leading to existential threat to humanity. However, the leaders of powerful countries like France, Germany, Russia, America, and England are not fully serious to these concerns. It is in this context that weaponization and militarization of space has become a serious issue of present-day world. While the Earth is already on the brink of total destruction, and on the other hand, even the space is not free from pollution as well as from unholy pollutions because of the rapid competition among the advanced countries to weaponize the space. The impact of new development in the international space has increased the privatization, and it will change the legal orders for the space activities. In the past, only the USA and the former USSR were known as the only space powers. But today, many other countries like India and China have become space powers. The quote I have noted from Subatra's speech there, the world is in the hush of difficulties created by the rich countries, including India. USR, these developments have increased the tendency towards privatization of space for commercial purpose is a serious threat to humanity. People need to know about this tendency because ultimately it is the humanity which is bound to suffer from this mad race for privatization of the space. There are some eminent Indian thinkers and seers who have continued to warn humanity about the looming shadow of destruction. They say, quote, destruction of the whole world is ready in front of you. They are preparing the bombs, etc. In such a way, they are preparing bombs, etc. in such a way that while sitting at home, they can finish everyone off. While sitting at home, they will release the bombs in such a way that the whole world will be destroyed. Suggestion: the international space should not be governed by private entities. Space tourist activities should also be banned for preserving the space and saving the humanities. Space tourist activities should also be banned for the preserving the space and saving humanities. International space law should not be softened, and multilateral treaties should be brought into effective practice to avoid the privatization and commercialization of the space. United Nations too should play a vital role in banning the privatization of the space. If we do not take the matter seriously, it will be impossible to protect health and environment, including the pervasive climate. We have already seen the consequences of degradation of environment and climate change. For example, recently a tiny country The Bahamas, known officially as the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, faced a severe catastrophic impact of environmental degradation. Other countries too are facing the same problems. Concluding remarks, it is found that more and more governments have become private users of the space, such as increase in the number of users, demands more stringent law and regulations to prevent further privatizations and commercialization of the space. Ignoring the growing threats resulting from privatization of the great mistakes. All governments and other stakeholders concerned about the use of outer space for peaceful purpose should take it as an obligation, including immediate actions to prevent privatization and militarization of the outer space. Government or states do not have any choice except to follow the universal law that demands banning the privatization of the space. People all over the world should heed the call of the time seriously, and voices should be raised to prevent their respective government for misusing the space. The relationship between humanity and ecology should be deeply strengthened. This is the way we can save the earth and the space from the total annihilations and destructions. Thank you. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, sir, for highlighting the serious issue of existential crisis, which is really important for us to tackle at this point of time before we exhaust all our resources. Thank you so much, sir. I'd now like to request our next presenter, Sai Rishikesh and Anulekha Manisetti of DSNLU, on a paper titled Jurisdiction in Outer Space. Welcome them to the program.
Read the whole thing.
Good afternoon, Manila. As I said, I have always dreamt of going out there into space, just sit back there and just say just see the way Earth rotates. It really makes my day. And as I grow up, I packed all my luggage, I packed everything and sent my dreams into space and became a lawyer. Today, the first thing a lawyer would think of regarding any case or anything is about jurisdiction. So we are here to present a paper on jurisdiction in outer space. Because no matter what development we get, our teacher comes into the class and says, we got an amendment, we got a new law, read it. So according to Article 8 of Outer Space Treaty, an object which is registered under the state is launched into outer space, and is carried shall have the jurisdiction of the state, and that state will have control over the object. No matter what happens to that object, it is the responsibility of the state. So the registration is done and it is given to the UN. The registration is not done in this way where they go with space shuttle and they get registered in that way. It's like our Aadhaar card where we all have a registered number. So that's the same way how these space shuttles have a registered number. But it's not they won't go with the space shuttle to the UN station and they won't get it registered. They get under Conventions on Registration of Object launched into Outer Space Treaty. These states get registered their space shuttles or the objects that are going to be launched into space, and they are presented to the UN. The Secretary General of the UN registrar will take these space registrations and keep a note of it. Okay, you might have a question of why this registration is done, because there are a lot of space agents out there. There are a lot of debris out there, and if something happens, then like some catastrophe happens or something like this happens, we don't know who this is and we don't know whom to inform. So these registrations, these registered numbers would help us. And a man cannot sit and be like, "Where's my Uber to come and pick me?" Right? So next, coming to the topic of criminal jurisdiction. Criminal jurisdiction. No matter where a man goes, the criminal law travels to the place where the man goes. So basically, as the man extending to the outer space, man going to the space, the criminal jurisdiction follows him. So no matter where he goes, the criminal jurisdiction follows it, and the laws which apply get come under it. The first criminal jurisdiction case was held on August 30th, 2019, where the first space crime has happened, where the NASA astronaut Annie McLean, who was accused by his ex-wife for identity theft. Probably he didn't have space to do it down here, so he went to the outer space to do the space theft. Thank you. My co-author will be dealing with the civil and the space visa jurisdiction.
Well, coming to the civil jurisdiction, under customary international law, the civil law jurisdiction was very restricted and it is very regulated, because the rules which are governing on the civil jurisdiction is far way different from the criminal jurisdiction. The reasoning given in the civil law jurisdiction differs in the criminal law jurisdiction. And in civil law jurisdiction, it mainly contains the principle of effectiveness. The common law also states that the most common basis to find where the defendant is, the presence can be temporary, because the defendant can also be found in non-law common states also, because the presence of him might change from time to time and he might go to somewhere else and he might be found in some other state. The Court of United States also said that this rule can be applicable if the defendant is also found transiting one particular state. We know that the Outer Space Treaty defines the space as all province of all human beings. This treaty mainly stated the rules about the civil liability than it does in the criminal liability. In addition to this, Article 6 of Outer Space Treaty states that a state will have the international responsibility of national activities happen in outer space, even if those activities are carried by the non-governmental entities. This convention on liability adds another thing, is that the dimension difficulty on the civil jurisdiction. The state which registers the object upon there is a need for state and which has jurisdiction, and the launching state, unless it is mentioned in a particular treaty between both the parties. Thus, there is a need of extending jurisdiction further to the bound of space object limited. The first and foremost problem arises is the choice of law. Means in particular case, the courts should be very keen in apply that particular law in that particular case. The limitation on jurisdiction is the ability to enforce the judgment. Then there is a distinct problem of the space resident. If a person became permanently reside in space, it might be difficult for him to enforce that particular judgment against that person. A person winning such a judgment would have no court to turn in order to get the judgment enforced due to the lack of courts present in the space. The only option would be search out any terrestrial assets that is space resident until the resident might be restrained. To deal with the problem arise of the jurisdiction, we have to come to with the policy of space visa. Space visa should be there for so many reasons. It is also termed as a license. The space visa is used to control the flow of people over the international boundaries, and airports often serve as a border place in which the passports and visas are provided. A spaceport is similar to the airport in many of the terms. It should be treated as a boundary that the people passes one nation to another nation. Like for example, to the foreigner who enters into our country, here he will be applying for a visa, then only he will be allowed to our country. As space law progresses, easy implementation of international space code, which could be applied uniformly without any barriers, even include penalties for those who fail to obtain such kind of visa. Um, Now we would like to conclude it by saying that creating a jurisdiction to uncertain area is a very difficult task, but the Outer Space Treaty, with their special provisions, are making contributions towards the development of outer space and helping in marking the extent of jurisdiction. We believe that the criminal and the civil law, whether on Earth or in the outer space, play a very major role in governance and maintaining the proper law. To the emerging technology and in the future of human tourism in the outer space, the space visa is something which can extend helping solving some jurisdiction problems. And now, if a new era of jurisdiction would start, if we meet aliens also. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am and sir. It was a very different and unique concept to have a space visa per se. Now we'd like to proceed with our next presenter, Ms. Tanmay R. from School of Law, Sastra University, Tamil Nadu, who's going to present a paper titled Sustain the Void Above, a Legal Exposition. Welcome her with a huge round of applause. Thank you so much.
A very warm afternoon to one and all present here, especially the dignitaries on and off the dais. The title of our paper is Sustain the Void Above, a Legal Exposition. Inquisitiveness has been the root of all the evolution of mankind. The 21st century has seen major explorations in space science with the entire planet competing to mark their identity in space. The spectre of international space regulation revolves majorly around the 5 UN treaties, but misfortune is that even the recent treaty on space exploration dates back to 1979, an era in which the concern or environment and sustainability has not been the major agenda of the spacefaring nation. In the very objective of them itself, from being curious to being commercial, they explore further into outer space and take more extensive forms such as the construction of permanent utilities and support missions for natural resources, and also anthroponic alterations of this environment and related hazards are in greater magnitude that is not even visible to naked eyes. Although the international community has increasingly made declarations and non-binding principles in this regard, a binding one is yet to be witnessed. Outer Space Treaty is by far the most accepted and widely recognized treaty, though it has debatable clauses like the Article 9 of the Outer Space Treaty that deals with the limitations on conducting space activities in environmental terms. It actually states that it requires the state parties to conduct their activities in outer space, including the moon and the other celestial bodies, so as to avoid their harmful contamination and also adverse changes in the environment of Earth resulting from the introduction of extraterrestrial matter, where necessary adopt appropriate measures for this purpose. Though this OST suggested to avoid harmful contamination from environment, it is mentioned that only extraterrestrial, for that matter just black contamination, not like they have not expressly mentioned what are the contamination literally. And also there are many arbitrary terms such as appropriate and necessary. Like the word appropriate has been mentioned, but not specified that what are the appropriate measures. Similarly, necessary, when it is necessary, what is there? It has not been mentioned at all. And also, the meaning and the extent of the terms like harmful contamination and adverse changes in the environment are arbitrary and has not been mentioned at all. Sure enough, The treaty establishes requirement for a state party to undertake appropriate international consultation before proceeding with a planned space activity or any experiment regarding if it poses a potential threat towards other nations. Prior consultations and cooperations are admittedly very important, but this clause has nothing to protect the environment per se, but merely to safeguard the space activities of the other state parties. Consultations are also undeniably important, but a consultation that does not result in any conclusion is merely meaning it makes it a treaty void actually. And also, sure enough, the ambiguities in these treaties are well utilized by the other nations to possibly avoid any constraint for that matter in their experiments, especially by the more prominent spacefaring nations. And moving on to the next treaty, the more important and much more relevant and binding treaty is the Moon Treaty. Considering its formers, the Moon Treaty is the more advanced of the space treaties, since the advancements in the Moon and its environment were more than any other arena of space science. Articles 3, 4, and 5 of the Moon Treaty states clauses regarding the concept of sustainability and peaceful uses. The consequences of non-disclosure of any such information has not been mentioned at all. But this treaty manages to seal the loopholes prevail in the Outer Space Treaty. But until now, only 18 countries ratified this agreement, which does not include any prominent spacefaring nations at all. Again, this renders the Moon Treaty also void. The UN resolutions thus frame some non-binding principles considering all these facts, and since this has been done since 1963, the cultivation of international cooperation is the most imperative intention of each of these principles. However, the NPS principles only apply to nuclear power sources for electricity generation and not to the possible use of nuclear energy for propulsion purposes. The safety requirements adopted are rather general and allowing those utilizing these nuclear power sources considerable freedom of choice and not binding. Considering all these, we would like to suggest or at least mention what are our ideas regarding the sustainable use of developments in outer space. Better implementation of the existing provisions itself is the basic solution to any legal challenge. This requires a better or rather a deeper research. More environment-oriented approach cause profit motive gradually reduce the concern for environment. As far as the loopholes and the ambiguity of the terms is concerned, the international space law has many terms like military uses or even peaceful uses. It should be amended and plausible clauses should be added literally. A regulation on commercial activities in space like space tourism can save the situation because it is a dire need actually. Establishment of a special court that will address the issues related to space exploration can be helpful to a greater extent. Okay, to conclude the paper, we would like to focus on the moral path. How human race, all through the journey of evolution, has somehow been manipulated to be and think selfish. Throughout the paper, we insisted on sustainability not only because it might be a potential threat to future, but also we as the most sophisticated and intellectual beings, we must have the empathy to care for the environment. So I conclude by stating that we should sustain the space while we still can. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That kind of triggered me a question that Raka Arya ma'am was talking yesterday about human tendency to always have a quest for power and the tendency to always dominate over some other people when you have the power. So how do we get over it is a question that still remains. And because it's a human tendency, we cannot get done with that. Saying that, I would like to conclude the technical session and we'll resume the technical session after a 1 hour's break of lunch. I request all the organizing committee members to escort the excellencies, and the DSNLU students are requested to hold back in the seminar hall. We'll resume the technical session 3 at 2:40 p.m. sharp.